Welcome to WagerTalk's Last Call. Kelly Stewart here, Kelly in Vegas. Every single Saturday and Sunday, we're coming in live to bring you guys updated, breaking information from some of our top handicappers at WagerTalk and always a bookmaker from the Westgate Superbook. Today, we've got Gianni the Greek coming up first. Right now, he's live over in the steam room, so as soon as he's ready to go, we're going to bring him in. John Murray said, what? The kickoff's not for hours, Kelly. Why do you need me to come on? I think he actually might still be at home, but he's going to join us as well. And then, of course, Steve Merrill is going to take all your NFL, college basketball, NBA questions because you know what? There's lots of money to be made today. Just got word VR is here, coming in from his steam room that he does every single Sunday. What's going on in the steam room this morning, VR?
Well, going over results, Kel, year to date, down after a bad Saturday, got killed in MMA. Had a good, last 365, but it was just a really tough night. It was good to see the dogs bouncing back after an outlier year where favorites hit over 70%. But I tell you when I win and I tell you when I lose. And coming off a losing day in MMA, and if you've been following my money management recommendations, I got about 6 positions to make up. So a lot of work ahead and looking forward to it.
I love it. Yesterday, Andrew McGinnis said he was listening to you on the steam room, and he said he was ready to run through a brick wall when he came on the show. So lots of good things that VR does over there, including some really good, motivational speaking, get you fired up for a great Sunday. All right, let's get into a couple of things. Bills in a good teaser position, not really anything to tease them with per se. Because it's the playoffs, VR, would you do a non-traditional teaser here and get the Eagles down to a pick 'em with the Bills?
After what we saw yesterday, probably not. Hey, there's no automatic. There's nothing automatic anymore. Yeah. I mean, just look at all I want to tease Detroit. And I'm comfortable because I plus the plus EV bet. As long as you placed a plus EV bet, you did your job. There's not much else you can do. They got to go out there and do theirs. But when you see a team like Detroit that was so heavily favored, not just to win the game, but to cover the number, and they took action on the way up. There's guys that laid the points. I know there was some take back at plus 10, but there was a lot of sharp money on that Detroit side. There was a lot of sharps that don't usually tease, that teased Detroit with Kansas City. And even 3-team teased it with the Buffalo Bills today, anywhere where they could get, plus 175, plus 180. It's a great 3-team teaser at 6 points. If you could get that price, it's rare. That's the difficulty of now doing it and knowing it's not really a Wong teaser. You're kind of doing it because you don't think the Eagles are going to lose, not because it's most advantageous to use that Wong teaser, because there's even 6.5s out there with a little juice right now. It's 7 mostly across the board. I recommend if you like, the Eagles, you use them in a money line parlay. If you're afraid to lay the number, use them in a money line parlay. We know when it comes to the playoffs, pick the winner. You're going to cash a ticket more times than not, close to 8 out of 10 times. I know the divisional round is actually the lowest, with the wild card round and the conference championship being the highest, divisional and the Super Bowl being the lowest, but it's still around that 80% mark where if you pick the winner of the game, they're going to cover the spread. I know Kansas City didn't do it yesterday, but throughout the playoffs, we've been seeing that. So if you like the Eagles, I recommend using them on the money line or betting them minus the points. I don't recommend using the teaser because it's just not an advantageous thing to do. It's a way to get down more action. And I've done that in the past. And when it's lost, I'm like, dude, you placed a bad bet anyway. So I kind of avoid doing that. We are seeing some over money starting to come back after the initial big move was to the under in the Philadelphia side. I saw now 43s, even some 43.5. I think that's more the public getting involved, Kel. And again, they don't speak until game day, and they seem to be betting this one over, but I can rest assured. The sharp guys are on the under in the Eagles game, and those that took that 4.5, 5, they got a good bet. But I can tell you, one of the groups I work with did take the 7 on the LA Rams earlier this morning. I don't like that the screen hasn't gone to 6.5 to reflect that. But there has been, I can tell you, some sharp money the other way. And also quick prop that came in on that game, that over 2.5 rush attempts for Gainville. And I'm seeing under 17 on Hurts for completions, under 17.5, under 17 on Hurts completions. And in the back end, looking at bets, it looks a little split from the recreational bettors so far. I'm seeing just as much action money bet on the Eagles as the Rams, just more tickets written on the Eagles so far.
All right. Anything else you have to share with us, team total wise, for either one of these NFL games? I know the guys love when you have these random team totals or random prop bets. Every once in a while, we even get a tennis play. We get some darts. Just funny stuff comes in here on Last Call.
All right. Bills, Ravens. Here's the bottom line. I have the Ravens. I have a big ticket on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. Seeing Detroit out of the way and actually seeing Kansas City advance, if they could get past this game, I like my ticket. The problem is this is a tough game in Buffalo, and we've seen sharp bettors on the Buffalo side. It's one of those games, Kel, where you're going to have sharp bettors on both sides, Baltimore and Buffalo. That's why the line hasn't really had to move all that much. Personally, I'm going to look to tease this Buffalo side up to that 7.5 where I can find it as a cushion for my future. But I'm not really all that scared. Like I said, because of the two-way sharp action on those, I don't have any team totals to share with you, but I do have a couple props and then 2 college basketball that just came in as I was logging into you. So we do have Amari Cooper on Buffalo over 22.5, 23.5 to 23.5 in receiving yards. I also have, where was it? Oh, Mark Andrews, rushing yards over a half a yard for Mark Andrews to go over a half a yard, laying up to minus 120, 125 for the Mark Andrews side. College basketball, 851 TCU plus 13.5, 839 over 142.5, 143 Youngstown State, Wisconsin, Green Bay. Those are 2 college basketball games that came in. There's some props for you. Some leans as far as the game and what I'm probably going to do with it. And best of luck tomorrow in the national championship. I know we're both holding an Ohio State ticket in our pockets, and nothing better than knowing the hedge is there all day. All day. The middle's available. It's a great way to wake up tomorrow.
Because I won't see you tomorrow. Are you going for a middle? Or are you going for a hedge? Or are we just letting it ride?
I swear, Kel, I bought to 10 when it was there. I couldn't pass it up. I laid a little more juice than I should have, probably 3 cents more, but I'm like, it's 10. I got to do it. So I hedged 2,500 on them. Okay. My tickets were, I only have like 1,500 worth of Ohio State futures. So I got that covered. Now it's, am I going to get greedy and try to lock in more? Because I'm seeing Notre Dame, some short money, and the market's reflecting it. That's what worries me. So I think I'm going to put a little more on Notre Dame and not feel bad regardless of outcome. And when the dust settles, hopefully we hit both sides, but I'm not going to lose money on that bet. That's the bottom line. I will not lose money on the Ohio State bet.
I have a question for me, because I'm going to go to the bar. We're going to a Viva bar outside of Tampa tomorrow night with a bunch of friends. We all have Ohio State futures, every single one of us. I have in a Calcutta, which is like where you bid on teams. We do it usually during March Madness. That same group out of Texas said, all right, we're going to do it for the college football playoffs. My guy said, who we taking? I said, listen, I got a big future on Ohio State. That's who I want. Ohio State went for over $100,000. We paid $55,000 for Notre Dame. I own 10% of that. It's already got my money back last game. So I actually win more on Notre Dame, I found out, than I do Ohio State. So it doesn't matter to me who wins. I will win a little bit more. So now my question is, do I try to even that out? Do I put some on Ohio State money line and say, hey, like I want to win the exact amount either way? Or should I just sit back and just stop trying to worry about a few extra dimes?
I would sit back, Kel, unless when the Notre Dame, 20 minutes before kickoff, you look at the point spread on Ohio State and the money line doesn't reflect that. You know what I mean? It's easy to know. You Google and you'll see what a money line should be. And let's say I'm just picking an arbitrary number. It's at -7 and the money line should be -250. But because we know a lot of recreational bettors say, I don't want the points. What do you mean? I put up 110, I only get back 100? Wait, but if I put 100 on Notre Dame to win the game, I get back 330? Yeah, give me the money line on Notre Dame. If that starts happening like we see in the Super Bowl, then I think you're placing a good bet. Then it's not even greed. It's just the fact like, dude, I have the Ohio State bet that I could place. It'll help balance out the long term, the big bet, and I'm even getting a better number. I should be paying $250 for this, and I'm paying $215, $220. That's when I think you step up and fire. Otherwise, dude, enjoy the game, drink that Viva, baby, and when the dust settles, count your money. You placed a great bet, you're being rewarded for it, and you get to find out how big of the reward is.
All right, well, let's hope that same result gets to come to fruition for us for the Super Bowl with the Ravens after today. Good luck to us. You guys can catch
Thanks,
VR on the Steam Room every single Sunday. He's over there giving out tons of information, whether it is sports betting, whether it's bankroll management, whether it's life advice, crypto. I've heard it all over there on the Steam Room. WT.buzz/VR. You guys can get all of his premium plays as well. If you do partner up with him and get his larger packages, you do get free access to the Steam Room. VR, we will see you next week. Thank you always for your contribution. I just got a little Slack message from our producer, Dan Alexander, who, by the way, is going to come on and talk Eagles-Rams before Steve Merrill comes on. So if you guys have a question regarding that game, drop it in the chat. We'll bring in John Murray. I don't know if he's in his office or if he's at home. Oh, he got to the office early just for us. You guys better give him a like, because he deserves it. Give him that little thumbs up button, because he didn't have to be there that early, but we love him for it. Good morning, John Murray.
How you doing, Kelly? This isn't really last call. The game's in 3 hours. This is like a call, then there'll be another call, maybe 2 or 3 more calls, and then the game will start. The game's in like 3 hours.
Well, usually NFL kicks off at 1 o'clock, but you know what we do have? And I hope you have some good information for us, because there is some really good Big Ten games today. College basketball is tipping off in about 47 minutes. So I'd love to hear anything you've got. Yesterday was a good college basketball day for me. Art DeCesar gave me 2 big old winners with fading Kentucky and taking SMU, laying it on the road at a very abysmal Miami team. Even though he was under the weather, I still got that text, and it was very valuable. So what valuable information do you have for our audience today?
Well, unfortunately, the number that moved the most, that game actually just tipped off. That's Illinois. They're at Michigan State. That number came way down. We closed that game +1. Illinois was a really sharp side, and you want one later today, I guess, right, Kelly? Because you have to bet. That's you. That's your personality type. I'll say TCU. They took 14. They took 13.5. TCU now +12.5 at Baylor. That game is this afternoon. Are you going to bet that one, Kelly?
Well, I am going to be with Chris Thurston, Baylor grad. It would be really fun to be holding not only a TCU ticket against his Baylor team, but also I'm going to probably be on the Ravens, and I know he is very heavy on the Bills today. So let's get into those NFL games, because
what are the chances of I'm interrupting you. What are the chances of Chris Thurston wearing his shirt for the entirety of the Ravens-Bills game? Can I bet on no shirt?
We are going to kind of do a dive bar. I bet the dive bar lets him take his shirt off. I feel like it's like that kind of place where he could probably take his shirt off and get away with it. I'll make sure to get some video evidence. If you guys don't know the backstory there, Chris Thurston definitely took off his shirt at, let's call it 2:30 a.m. at the Westgate at a blackjack table. Listen, we were having a great time. They didn't kick us out. They didn't tell us that we were too rowdy.
I'm trying to run a business here. Okay, you want to talk about football? Let's do it. Kid.
All right, we got 2 games today. I don't know what to do with this Eagles-Rams game. We're going to break it down a little bit more in depth with our producer and resident Eagles fan after John Murray. But this game just seems like, to me, Rams just absolutely throttle the Vikings. Eagles get past the Packers. No real sweat there. The Packers just looked really awful in that one. But I've been dead wrong about the Eagles for what feels like a decade. I don't think the last time I was correct on an Eagles game has been within the last 5 years.
Well, I think at some point you just have to accept how highly power rated the Eagles are. I mean, people thought that the number was really high last week against a Green Bay team that was highly power rated all season. The Rams, like Kelly mentioned, they crushed the Vikings on Monday Night Football in Arizona, and now they're getting a full touchdown in this game. Remember, at the Westgate, we booked these games day of at -105. So right now we've got Eagles -7 even money, Rams +7 -110. There is money starting to show up on the Rams finally, but there's a lot of, I gotta say, sharp accounts on the Eagles laying 6, laying 6.5, taking us up to 7, and we thought we were gonna have so much money line parlay liability, Kelly, but we don't have as much as we thought because of what happened last night with Detroit losing to Washington. So we can just kind of book this game normally, which is nice. We don't have to worry so much about the parlays.
I love it. Your Washington Commander football team guys got it done for me. I was very, very happy with that result. John,
Yes.
talk about moving that to 7, because to me that just says you guys are like begging for Rams money. Otherwise, you'd just be kind of sitting with everybody else at 6.5.
You think we're panhandling for Rams bets? Is that what you're accusing us of doing?
Well,
I don't know.
especially
We
minus
look.
105.
We're true. I mean, we're moving with what we're seeing here. We do. I will say we do have a lot of parlay money on Philadelphia point spread. I'm looking in the system right now. There's a lot of accumulation there. So we are looking for a Rams bet. I don't know if we're begging for a Rams bet, Kelly.
Right.
I don't know if I appreciate that word. But
That's fair.
I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of some people ding us on 7. But you got to be careful with that. Like yesterday, what was the worst possible number for the Kansas City game to
9.
land on? 9, of course, because the number was bouncing around there. That was the worst. You couldn't have a worse number than 9. And, of course, Houston misses like a 30-yard field goal, and then the Chiefs, I think it was blocked, and then the Chiefs have a intentional safety to land 9.
God.
So you do have to be a little careful. And if Detroit had won, if Detroit had won by 8 or 9 yesterday, that would not have been good. Now, obviously, that was never in play. Washington was in control, but you got to be careful a little bit. You don't want to set the book up to get middled or sided.
Yeah, that's not good. I will say that. I know Errol Epstein was pretty fired up about that intentional safety. Luckily for me, in my Splash Sports contest with you, I had, luckily, 8.5 with Kansas City. Oh, my gosh. That would have had me a little fired up as well.
Whoa, hold on a second. Whoa. Kelly, I'm interrupting you for a second time. It's not luck. Getting the best of the number is not luck. Okay, that means you got a good number. I love Ariel Epstein, but if she laid 9.5 when it was 8.5 all week, I don't really think she's got much of a leg to stand on.
That is fair. I'll let you take that up with her. Let's talk about this late game.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. I don't want to fight with you.
I am not.
No thanks.
I am not wanting to watch this game with Chris Thurston. I know he's very heavy on the Bills, and I haven't decided if I'm actually going to bet it or not. I've got a 10-1 there at the Westgate Superbook ticket on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. So I'm just kind of hanging tight. I don't need to get involved in this game, but I do kind of feel like this is all public Bills money. I tweeted about that this morning, and a couple different books disagreed. A couple books said, no, we're going to need the Ravens heavy.
Public Bills money? No, I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, this is definitely the most evenly bet game of the 4 games in this round, but we still have more tickets on Baltimore than we do on Buffalo. I don't really see this setting up to be a particularly big decision. There's a lot of money going in on both ways. I do know we took a bunch of parlays this morning: Eagles, Ravens, Ohio State. Can't forget about that game tomorrow night for the national championship. But no, I can't say that I'm seeing public on Buffalo. There's a lot of tickets here on the Baltimore Ravens.
All right, before we let you go, talk about that national championship game, because I'll try not to bother you and text you tomorrow. As I mentioned earlier, I think I'm just going to sit back and hang tight. But anybody that's holding a Notre Dame ticket, or anybody that's holding an Ohio State futures ticket and may want to bet one side or another, talk to me about the split action there on the national championship game. Or are we seeing a public dog with the Irish?
Yeah, I heard you. I was in kind of the lobby waiting for my appearance, and I heard you talking about what sounded like a semi-legal Calcutta. And I got to tell you, I was very uncomfortable with that conversation, Kelly. I do think we're going to need Ohio State pretty big tomorrow, because we've got such a great futures position on Ohio State. And I do think Notre Dame is a semi-public dog. But this is nothing like the national championship game from 11 or 12 years ago when they played Alabama, and the entire world was on Notre Dame in that game. The most square dog I've ever seen in my career was Notre Dame against Alabama in that title game. I don't see that tomorrow. There's plenty of support for Ohio State, but I did tell you, I think last week on this show, probably the account we respect the most took Notre Dame plus 9.5. And that's why we're down right now at plus 8. And remember, tomorrow, the day of the game at the Westgate, we're going to book this game minus 105 both ways. So if you're not betting here, I mean, what are you doing, Kel? You want to lay 5 extra cents every time you make a bet?
You hate
Why would
money.
you do that? Why would you do that?
You should not do that. It would be a very dumb decision of you to bet it anywhere else. If you're going to bet the game, would be a very dumb decision to bet it anywhere else than the Westgate Superbook. John Murray is the best. You guys can catch him here on Sundays with me on Last Call. And of course, the Kelly and Murray show on Thursdays, where we basically just berate each other for 45 minutes and then answer some mailbag questions. At Vegas Murray, make sure you guys are following him on social. About once a week, he has something very funny and witty to say, and it is worth the follow. John, see you on Thursday.
See you later,
guys,
kid.
If you have a question for Steve Merrill, drop it in the chat. We're going to bring in our producer, Dan Alexander, because I thought, you know what? Steve Merrill said, I'm not talking about either of these NFL sides. They're both for sale up on WagerTalk. And I said, whoa, we got to just talk about the totals. Totals are boring. And I thought, you know what? My producer, Dan, is always waiting in the wings, and he always loves talking about these damn Eagles team. And like I said, I am awful, Dan, at betting on or against your Eagles. I have been wrong for what feels like the entire 21st century on your team. So let's break down this game a little bit. And now that it's at 7, I'm going, oh, maybe I kind of like the Rams just a tiny bit.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is 1,000%. I mean, now that the line has just gone sky high here, now over a touchdown in a game that figures Kelly to have some like inclement weather here. Sure, I don't think it's going to be as bad as maybe some people were prognosticating. You know, like those Dov Kleiman guys who are just all about the clickbait, who said 7 inches of snow in Philly today. I don't think that's going to be happening, but it will be cold. Real feels, we're looking around like 20 degrees throughout the game. And I was talking with you before the show, you know, people talk about, oh, if it's snow, you know, Matt Stafford in the snow. Sure, you've probably seen those stats. As a matter of fact, Prez gave it out on WagerTalk today. Matt Stafford playing in inclement weather. That's snow games. That's rain games. He's 1-8 straight up in his career. It hasn't been great for him. However, Kel, the one win was this season. So if you were taking that 0-8 trend, to the bank with you, you would have lost on it earlier this year. The fact that we're looking at this thing that was what VR was talking about 5.5s out there that people got down on. Now we're looking at 7s. I don't think you could lay it with the Eagles at this number. And this isn't just me being like, you know, a fan not wanting to jinx it or whatever. Last week, as a matter of fact, I go on Sports Grid every Friday with Dave Sherapan and Scott Wetzel, and I said Eagles win by 12 points or more. And what do they win by? 12 points. Like, I am not the type of fan that just bets with their team every single week. I use the fact that I'm a season ticket holder, that I know this team in and out. I read the tea leaves to my benefit to handicap them a little bit better. I'll bet on them the same I will against them. And it seems to me like a stay away. I'm surprised that we're seeing this over money coming in. Kelly, we also had a question here. This guy was asking about Gainwell, anytime touchdown. You know I love my Birds backup running back touchdowns. You and I were at a Giants game together a few years ago when Boston Scott anytime touchdown was sitting at 10-1, and we cashed in on that one. Here's my problem with Gainwell, Ed. He's had 1 touchdown all year long. He definitely is used in this offense, but you never really know, is he going to be used in the passing game? Is he going to be used in the rushing game? Now, you heard VR talking about this game. He expects Jalen Hurts' attempts to be low. He expects completions to be low. So that would figure you don't really want to be picking some of these fringe guys outside of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, even Jahan Dotson, to be going over any receiving props, right? So that's the way that maybe I would cross it off the list. There was a stretch for Kenny Gainwell where his usage was sky high. You were looking at 7 carries for 30 yards, 4 carries, 43 yards. Now, I said, Kel, he scored 1 touchdown all year long. If you're a tinfoil hat person, the 1 touchdown, Kelly, was against the Los Angeles Rams. So if you want to take your shot on a 10-1,
we all know I love like your conspiracy theories. Okay, like that's a pretty good one.
I knew if one person would talk about it, it would be you, Cal. Let's get the tinfoil hats on. The last thing I'll say about this game, because I know folks want to hear Steve Merrill. They don't want to just hear the producer behind the screen. But I appreciate you bringing me on here, Kel. I got all this nervous energy for game day and nowhere to put it. So the last thing that I will say about this game, VR kind of touched upon it, is if you're looking to play the Eagles, maybe the teaser isn't the way to go. Now that it is up at 7, sure, you don't get to take it through 7 because we're not looking at a 7.5, but it is it's not a Wong teaser, but it's Wong-ish. It is in the same, at least, park as a Wong teaser. The part that worries me is if you can't do the open leg teasers like you always preach, that's the way to really bet them rather than forcing yourself into picking a side that you don't really like. With Buffalo, all this money coming in on Buffalo today kind of worries me a little bit that Public is on him, Sharp is on him. Like you and I both, John Murray makes fun of us for it because we're always like, well, what does the book need? He's like, who cares what the book needs? We've gotten killed all year long. So why are you asking what I need? But it does worry me a little bit. So if you were going to be going with the teaser, taking the Eagles down, why don't we throw Ohio State in it instead?
Yep.
If we're already breaking the golden rule, Kelly, that we don't tease from 7, why don't we break the golden rule that we don't tease college football? Don't go crazy on it. Don't pull off the rubber band. But people want, what's your play? All right, my play is Eagles down, Ohio State down. Yeah. That's the producer play. And you can hop in the comments and tell me what an idiot I am.
Yeah, listen, I think you're an idiot too, but I'm the same idiot that just made that. And I literally went off screen. I bet it really quick. I was like, that gives me a little action on this first game. Go whack some Vivas with CT bets. All right, I'm cheering for the Eagles to essentially just win by 2 or more, right? Because some teaser spots tie lose. So keep in mind, follow your house rules. And hey, I think Ohio State runs away with it. But in the chance that they just win by a field goal here, cash that other leg as well. Dan Alexander, you guys can find him at Newbie Talks. He is our producer here at WagerTalk, but he is on Sports Grid, does tons of other shows. We just don't give him enough spotlight because, well, he doesn't sell picks. Also, he's excellent at the Premier Lacrosse League. You guys want to know some of the intricate parts of my success? Well, it was because Dan Alexander said, here you go. Here's some cheat sheets. Learn this sport, kid. And we did really, really well last year. Hopefully we can replicate that this year. Steve Merrill is going to come in. College basketball, NBA, NFL, any of those sports we will touch. If you guys have a question, we'll take you up until kickoff. If the questions stop, I'm getting the hell out of here because I got to get some lunch and drink some Vivas. Steve Merrill, happy Sunday. Welcome in. What's going on in your world? Steve's muted. This is the running joke, guys, on Last Call, is that there's never been a show in the history of Last Call that we have not had a technological issue, whether we start late.
That was me. You know what I did? Here's what happened. I'll explain it to all the viewers there. I muted my Yeti, and I never mute vMix anymore. But I didn't know how long Dan was going to be on for, so I didn't want to have to reach across and unmute the Yeti. So I did mute vMix, I just realized. So I unmuted myself. I was talking. What I said was that Sundays have been very, very good. I double muted myself. Shouldn't a double mute undo the mute? That's another question for another day.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. But Sundays have been incredible. We had an 0-2 Sunday 3 weeks ago, and the reason I bring that up is so I can say we've gone 17-0 on the other 5 Sundays. So 17-2 the last 6 Sundays. And guess what? 2 plays today. And don't let that scare you because we had a 3-0 sweep last Sunday of the NFL playoffs. Yeah, both plays were sides. I would have gladly talked about them, but I wanted you to bring Dan on. So that's the only reason I said let's talk totals. So it worked out. It was what we call a win-win. And I do think both games are interesting. I am surprised by the line move in the Eagle game. My personal opinion on what happened there was if you look, the total dropped yesterday from 43.5 down to 42, and the line went from 6 to 6.5. Now it's 7. I think it was maybe somewhat weather related, but as Dan pointed out, the weather is less of a factor now. In fact, in my free video for this game a couple days ago when I recorded on Friday, I said there's a 100% certain lock and that there will be snow at kickoff at 3 Eastern. It was saying, my weather apps were saying 90%. Some were saying 100% 2 days ago. Now it's saying 40%. And the snow's coming more at 6 o'clock Eastern when the game's almost over. So there'll be snow. It's not going to be an issue as far as the game goes. And that gets me to the over in this game. And I think we get more value now at 42. You guys talked about that earlier meeting, 57 combined points. Eagles did dominate that game, but the Rams are still 10-3 since the bye week when they started 1-4. They got that bye. They've gotten the receivers healthy. These are 2 good offensive teams, and everyone sees that under last week. And by the way, part of my 3-0 sweep was a strong best bet on the Packer game under. But I think this is a different type of matchup here, and I don't think the weather is going to affect the score as many people thought earlier in the week.
Yeah, congratulations to Steve. He's very humble. He has been crushing it in the NFL. That's why he gets the coveted chair here on Last Call. And also, his Washington Football Commander team
Here we go.
Won outright last night over.
It's pronounced Redskins. I picked this up for $12. I left the price tag on it a couple of years ago. Look at this. Is this not freaking fantastic? You'll see what's missing. There's no helmet that has a W on it.
Oh,
because that's not what it should be. Joe Gibbs on the sidelines last night with Commander gear on broke my heart.
Yeah,
Broke
they
my
probably
heart,
would not let him wear old school Redskins gear. Brett's aunt is a Redskins fan, and when she came and watched the Super Bowl with us last year at the Westgate, she was head to toe in her Redskins gear.
Good for her.
At the
It's
Super
a
Bowl,
great American right there.
It was awesome. I enjoyed it. All right, let's talk about this other game from a totals perspective, and then we'll start taking some questions about the NBA. And I have a couple college basketball questions as well. Steve, I don't really know what to do here. Do I just sit back and relax with my 10-1 ticket on the Ravens? Do I hang out? Do I say, nah, that open-ended teaser with the Bills, that's a smart thing to do. Go for the middle. Talk to me. What would you do in my position?
So what do you got 10-1 to what? Win the Super Bowl on the Ravens? Yes. That's what we're talking. I'll give you a very unhelpful answer here. I think the Ravens are the best team in the playoffs right now, but I think they have an incredibly tough road. But they have an incredibly tough road because they got to go through Buffalo tonight, have to go through Kansas City next week, and then they have to win the Super Bowl on top of that. So I think just for that reason, you probably have to start hedging. The problem is you don't have a lot of wiggle room at 10-1. I will say this, Kelly. I think whoever wins this game tonight is going to beat Kansas City next week. The Chiefs were outplayed by Houston yesterday. And I said during my solo video on that game, I thought Kansas City was the best teaser play I'd seen all season. And I leaned towards the Chiefs, but my concern was that they don't win by margin.
Correct.
And while you can say, well, they know how to win, they're a veteran team, Mahomes and Reed are great. That is true, but when you handicap sports, margin of victory really does eventually come into play. And like teams that, are coming from behind, like the Cardiac Commanders, they had won their previous 5 games in the final play from scrimmage until last night. I think they're up against it next week against either the Rams or Eagles, by the way. And how crazy will it be if that game is LA? Because they will have to probably play on a neutral field again for the NFC Championship. So you conspiracy theories out there like Dan Alexander, maybe that's why the line went to 7, because the NFL probably wants that game in Philly next week. But one of these teams will be going to KC. I think both of them can defeat the Chiefs. This game is basically in that pick 'em range. Both would make solid teasers. In fact, the line was briefly 1.5 Baltimore plus last Sunday. And then it quickly, of course, went to Bills 1, some 1.5s. Buffalo plus 7.5 is a solid teaser. Not a lot of opportunities. There are mostly ones out there. Had a very sharp viewer who watches my videos. They comment. Of course, I read the comments. I reply back. Same with this show. He got teasers earlier this week where he got Baltimore plus 7.5 with Chiefs, maybe Lions. That didn't work out. But also got the Bills plus 7.5 and some teasers. That is some smart line shopping right now. Also, it was interesting, Dan was saying that the public is coming in on Buffalo, but this line is still +1. I don't feel like it's moved that much today. I mean, the Eagle line has actually moved more. As far as the total, it's holding on that key number of 51.5. And I bring that up because there's about a 3 to 4% chance this game lands exactly 51. It's a very key number. I like the under here. The earlier matchup was obviously a blowout for Baltimore. It was in the mid-40s. What was it? 35-10, I believe, was the score in that one. But it wasn't misleading. Baltimore dominated the game. Buffalo did have trouble moving the ball. Cold weather, I think, might, though, affect Lamar Jackson a little bit more in this go-around. And also, just looking at the points scored, both touchdowns, field goals, I do a rescore model. I got to about 40. And on the drive charts, I got to the mid-40s. So I think 51.5 is inflated, especially with freezing temperatures. Only going to be like an inch of snow, but it's going to be like 18 at kickoff, wind chill of like 10. That does start to affect scoring a bit. 51.5 looks a little inflated to me for this playoff game tonight.
Yeah, Steve, I'm with you. I like the under in the late game as well. And maybe that's what I need to be looking at. Just sit back. I got a coin flips type scenario with the Ravens, but look at towards the total. All right, Steve, do you have a team total bet today? Jerbaka42 would love to know if you would share it.
Well, I used the over in the Lions game on my Fade the Public video. That was actually the only public lean this week, by the way, Kelly. Last week, the one public play was the Chargers. Fading that worked pretty well with the Texans. This week, nothing strong, but the public was kind of on the under in that Lions game last night. So I liked the over there. I liked both those team totals over. Once again, I think your team total plays are going to be somewhat correlated to how you like the game totals. I like the Ram-Eagle game over 42, so I would lean team totals over for both of them. This Bills-Ravens game, as I just mentioned, I lean under 51.5, which would get me leaning team totals under as well. And it really comes down to how you think the quarterback's going to play. Obviously, Josh Allen went to Wyoming for college. So he's pretty comfortable. But I think Lamar's like 3-1 in cold weather games also. But I still think the total's too high in this game. I would lean team totals under in both. And, one thing about that Ram game I didn't mention is that the NFL games last week went 5-1 to the under. The Texan game actually pushed on the opener and landed under by a couple on the closing line. Otherwise, you would have had 5-0-1, no overs. And then you look at yesterday, a shootout in the Lions game. I think that Eagles game could have that, but I think this Bill game will be more modest, and I think the team totals under are worth a look for that reason.
All right, I'm kind of upset with myself because I said this is last call, and we want to start talking about the games before tip-off, and then I didn't realize that Illinois, Michigan State tipped off at noon. John, of course, said Illinois got beat to all hell. They were 3.5 yesterday when my buddy and I were looking at it. 1 is what they closed today, and now, of course, they're up there early. Any other college basketball that's on your radar today? John Murray mentioned they saw a sharp group take 14 with TCU. It's now down to 12.5. That starts at 5 p.m. Eastern. I was also kind of looking at this Michigan Northwestern game, Steve.
Yeah, the TCU game is interesting because it actually opened a lot of spots, 12.5 Baylor. So I think that was kind of an up and down. Not a lot of great games on the board. I'm personally passing in basketball today. The Michigan Northwestern game at 2 Eastern is probably one of the better matchups. We have seen some sharp money coming on Northwestern. It opened as high as 10, down to 9. Total has dropped a little bit as well, 147.5 down to 146. And that's not a surprise with Northwestern games for years now. They've always been a very slow half-court team. And if you look at their ratings this season, 303 in tempo, 28th best defense in the country, and only 94th on offense. So I do think Northwestern and the under are somewhat correlated in that one.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards Northwestern. Michigan's been what's a nice way to describe Michigan this year? Come on, Steve.
Well,
help
let's
me
just
out.
say NIL-ish for any of these teams. I mean, there's been some real random results. I'm actually below 500 right now in college hoops. And first of all, I was 2-0 yesterday. The sky is not falling, Chicken Little. Like, we'll do fine in college basketball. But I am making little tweaks, Kelly, on some of these high-profile teams like Michigan. Indiana last week laid an egg.
You cannot trust this team. UCLA. Yes.
Yeah, Mick Cronin called him out a couple of weeks. How about this? I play Gonzaga a month ago. UCLA beats them outright. I lose that play. Then I come back. I forget which game, like a week or two later with UCLA. They laid the egg, and Mick Cronin is calling them out in the press conference like they don't care. They're soft. And then you see what happened. They lose to Rutgers the other day as a road favorite. I do think it's a handicapping angle we have never talked about in our careers that you have to start. It's almost like handicapping the NBA. You got to start looking more at motivation now in college basketball, which is never something I worried about in college sports and football as well, probably.
No, I would agree with you. Look, here's a prime example. Yesterday, I went 4-2 on the hardwood. I had a couple of double-digit, almost outright losers with Cincinnati. That was just atrocious. They did end up getting the cover, but just pissed down their leg late. I took K-State yesterday. K-State has been in an awful run. They have one of the most expensive NIL rosters. I love Coach Tang, but he refuses to call out his players for what you said Mick Cronin's doing, being soft, not playing hard enough, et cetera, et cetera. I knew they were going to play hard against KU. If all of the games that they're going to play hard against, 15.5 points, I texted my buddies. I was like, I'm not giving this out because I'll just get called a homer. I was like, I'm giving it out. Would I be surprised for them to follow up next game by losing? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Losing another game. They play Baylor. Yeah. They play at Baylor, which is Coach Tang's former school. So look, there's some spots. You're right. Handicapping motivation in college basketball is going to be a real thing going forward.
Yeah, and you talk about TCU getting some sharp money. There's 6-1 money line, but how nice would that be if Baylor lost outright? That'd be the wake-up call for Baylor. Here's what we need our friend Ralph Michaels to do with his powerful database that he carries with him under his arm in a briefcase, is that we need to have him take an NIL database and let's just blindly play, like when you get the biggest margin of NIL money, like a $0 versus a $5 million. That'd be a fascinating study in both football and basketball, because my gut feeling is that these high-paid schools are not going to do well point spread-wise. But you're right. You pick your spots. By the way, last Saturday, I had Cincinnati. What was it? Cincinnati, Kansas? I can't remember. They were so bad in that game. So it's night and day, but I think you're right. You pick your spots, but the zigzag's going to work. You played them in a focused spot. They probably come back down to earth. They're who we thought they were, right? Who said that? Dennis Scott, or not Dennis Scott, whatever the Viking coach Scott was in. Dennis Green. They're who they are who we thought they are. I mean, that's a lot. Once again, you got to pick your spots with these teams, but very careful otherwise.
All right, guys, if you have a question for Steve, drop it in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to get out of here because we've got Vivas to drink and things to do. Steve Merrill, anything you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, once again, I mean, the NFL is red hot. As you mentioned, it's not just the 17-2 Sunday run the last 6 weeks. I'm 28-12 on all NFL plays since early November, the last 2 months. That's number one at WagerTalk, up over 56 units of profit. And it didn't stop at the playoffs. 4-0 sweep last week. Did not have any best bets yesterday. He didn't miss anything. Both best bets go in both games today. They're both side selections. I gave you the totals for free, but go get both sides right now. The 1 day is 39. A 3 day is 69, and right now you can get that 4th day included for free. So it's a 4 day for 69, dude, and that expires after this weekend. So you get Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, which is a big basketball day. By the way, if you're ready to take a serious investment approach, all jokes aside, my 1-year all access is always available, and right now you get an instant $811 discount with promo code SM365. That gets it down to just over $1 a play for the next year for every football, baseball, and basketball, college, and pro best bet. Up over 130 units in 2024. We more than doubled our bankroll in less than a year. We're looking to do it again in 2025. You know, this past Friday, Kelly, was apparently the number one day of the year where people drop their New Year's resolutions. So wouldn't it be appropriate to make a new one right now to be a winner in 2025? That 1-year all access promo code is on my page right now, along with the 3-day special. Check it out. 2 NFL best bets, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com.
Love it. Steve Merrill, 2 R's, 1 L on all of your social media channels. You guys can also catch him on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. He does a ton of free content there, guys. The Fade the Public. He comes on WagerTalk today and deals with the Prez. We love Steve. And there is a reason why he is always here on Last Call, and that's because he's one of the number one guys over at WagerTalk. And Steve, keep it hot, man. It's been really fun. 17-2 is a hell of a run on Sunday. So congratulations to you, number one NFL handicapper at WagerTalk over the last 2 months, and 4-0 in the NFL playoffs, looking to make it 6-0 today. Good luck, Steve, to you. Good luck to me. Good luck to all of you guys. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on Last Call.